Now today in the shop we're going to be working on Turbo Steve's XN85 turbo bike, and we're going to do the clear coating on it, and hopefully the weather's going to cooperate, which it looks like it's going to be a great day for painting. We waited patiently through a whole summer of super hot weather when it would have been really very difficult to get the paint to lay down correctly. What happens with paint, if it's really hot, the paint doesn't take long enough to dry and get a good bond, and so we didn't want to risk that. This is a collector bike, and I'm sure he wants to have it as absolutely perfect as possible. And today we did get the clear on. So Turbo Steve is on his way over here right now. It's a beautiful day for painting. We're going to try to get some more clear on his project. All these parts he's finished putting the decals on, and I think he's pretty much ready, but I don't know. Again, we may change that plan. I'm not sure. We're going to find out. But we've got a lot of time into this project already, and it would be nice to take advantage of a beautiful fall day and finish it up. So we'll see what time he gets here. Now this is the clear that we're going to be using Gavco 7701 and the Fast Urethane Hardener, both from Gavin's. It couldn't be a better day for painting. It is just super, about 70 degrees and not much breeze blowing. It should be a piece of cake. So are you guys going to help with the painting? Not really, right? Not really. And Karen's garden is just blooming away here. All we're doing is waiting for Steve now. In fact, I'm going to go down and clean the gun, mix the paint, and I think he's ready to prep the parts when he gets here. Now, I went out and got a brand new spray gun for this job. I didn't want to take any chances we were going to have some residue of paint in the old guns. Always, that's a good idea if you have a real project you really treasure, like this bike. And some of these parts are not difficult to get; they're impossible to get. So we really wanted to do our best. And I always run acetone through the gun, maybe a cup or two of the acetone, to make sure there's no aluminum residue from the manufacturer. And because this is the final clear, I didn't want to have any even those little silver specks that come in when they machine some of the parts overseas with these guns. And Steve got his Kawasaki just a little before I got the MT-09. He's got 15,000. I have right around 13,000. So he's putting some miles on a bike. He's already replaced the tires a few times, and we'll get into that at the end of the video. There's some interesting tire information at the end of this video. But right now we wanted to get down and get the parts prepped and take advantage of this absolutely fabulous day for painting. And it was great. So Steve, because he has his hands clean, he cleaned up the parts I'm going to test on with the M600. He's going to sand the tank with, well, and you got the fender, you could sand the fender too. 2,000 grits. And what that'll do is get rid of some of the little dust and imperfections. According to how good he does, we'll see if he does it, that I pay him or he pays me. I don't know. Or no, neither one of us get paid. Anyway, and I'm going to start on the tail section, which you cleaned up. Tail section is prepped. Yeah, I'm always concerned when I go over vinyl about potential little fish eyes, but we're going to try to deal with that if we have an issue.
Perfect day for paint.
Perfect day for paint. Perfect day.
Actually, it's also the perfect day for riding your motorcycle.
You could do that anytime. You could do that anytime. You got more miles than I do anyway, so why are you laughing? So we're using our brand new gun, cleaned with acetone, mixing up the paint. I mixed up enough for the whole job, hopefully. And now that that's in the glass jar, and I can mix it up that way, of course, I can meter out just enough to fill the gun, but I don't want to fill the gun right to the very top. I don't want to take any chance we're going to have any drooling or anything. The caps on these guns don't fit real tight, and what I do, I put blue tape around it, and I've shown that trick on video before. And the objective of that whole thing is to keep it from dripping. I put this in fast forward. The reason is pretty obvious, and I try to explain to people that are trying to learn the basics of painting that my own technique, and this is the way I've painted model airplanes and this is the way I paint motorcycles. This is not like a production run where you take a big car gun and blow it clear on. I'm putting this on probably in the course of this. This is about 7 or 8 minutes of video shrunk down to a minute. And the purpose is to go back over it over and over and over like it was an airbrush. I've got very low pressure, between 20 and 25 pounds. And the material on the temperature is between 75 and 80 right now. Perfect painting weather, not a lot of breeze blowing. And it's much, much better that the paint lays down in several thin coats. The more thin coats you can put on, the better. Now, this is not a production thing where we're trying to make money and trying to get the job out and get the next one in. And this is the way that I've painted things my whole life, and this is the way, the information I've passed on to friends who, like Scott, that have also gone on to become very successful. Now, I always have this thing when I do one part. I like to do the first part, let it kind of tack out, see how the gloss is going to, and that tells me how the paint is laying out for that particular day. This looked like it was going to be just as perfect as you could make it. So I was kind of anxious to get the rest of this done before we had a change in the weather or whatever. Some bug came over and flew into Steve's paint. In fact, while we were sitting at the table and just relaxing from it, a butterfly was flying around his tank. And all you have to do is have the butterfly land somewhere. Oh, and bugs. That is so true. Anyway, this is not normally the time of year I paint, so I had to get the paint table out of storage. And I had to make my little, always make a jig to get it up off the table. There's a lot of reasons. I don't want to blow the dust up off the table. I want to be able to get as low to the bottom as I can. And I used to have an old tripod from a camera that I used to use for this, but just doing it with paint cans and an old table like this, just more convenient for me. And it's the devil I know. And I've seen some pretty exotic things. People jig parts up. Whatever works for you. And some parts, of course, I do by hand. But anyway, the part, as I'm laying it out and getting ready to spray it, I'm looking around now for anything that's just not right, any little fingerprint or anything that's on there. Steve kept his hands clean the whole day so that he could do a lot of maneuvering around. He was sanding. While I was doing this, we were multitasking. He was 2000 gritting down some other parts. And the biggest thing to remember here with this whole job is, and I'll emphasize this over and over again, we had a summer that it was just really, really hot for about 2.5 months. And I was tempted, the parts were in my cellar, I was tempted to get together with Steve and come on, let's get this done and whatever. But you know what? When you paint in really, really hot weather above 90, you compromise the adhesion of the paint to the part, and what can happen is what it looks like when it doesn't work out the way you want is saran wrapping, I call it. The paint just comes off like saran wrap. I put a lot of this in fast forward. I just didn't want to have it that people fall asleep in the middle of the video. They probably do, so I shouldn't say anything. But anyway, getting one part at a time done, getting that part out to the garage where I can see it's the purpose of putting it in the garage is I don't want to leave it in the blazing sun. Where bugs can land on it, butterflies can land on it, or who knows what pigeons do when they fly over. But anyway, once I've got the clear on, and I wound up putting 3 coats of clear on this about 15 minutes apart. It was just a question of letting it get to the point where you can touch it and your finger doesn't stick and you can put the next coat on. Because the temperature was so good today and we didn't have a lot of wind, I don't think there's any issues with this paint that you can't just run a buffing wheel over it maybe a week from now and it'll be just like a show bike. This should really be nice. Now, because it's a collector bike and Steve collects turbo bikes, and this is one, he wants to upgrade the one he has. He's rebuilding a turbo on it. So what'll be another choice is once he's finished with this, we can take the other set of bodywork that's pretty well beat up and strip it down and make another perfect set of bodywork. So he's got a lot of choices over the winter. Normally we do this kind of work basically from Christmas to about the end of February. But you never know. Then this was kind of an emergency thing. I wanted to get this out of the way today. These parts started drying up in the garage. They looked like they were going to be great. So it was time to get moving on the bigger parts. Now, it's probably pretty fair to mention this somewhere in the video, and this would be a good time while we do painting the fender. Years ago when I was about 15 years old, 14 or 15, Harold Price taught me how to paint model airplanes. I parlayed that information into a little business that I had and in the 60s and going into the 70s, where I painted a lot of Harley Davidsons and a lot of those half helmets. And I parlayed that into where when I started racing in Amar, I painted all of my bikes. I had a whole bunch of Yamahas and painted them all matching paint. It all looked pretty custom and cool, but the reality is it taught me how to paint. But back in the day, that was acrylic lacquer, whole different animal. That information kind of obsolete today. This new paint we have, this 4-to-1 paint, and I haven't found one of the mixes, 5-star, the Gavin paint, just any of them that are really crappy. They all seem to work pretty good. And I know Ruben McBride had emailed me today, in fact. He's painting model airplanes with this stuff right now as we speak. And I told him in the email, I said, Ruben, it doesn't really matter. I haven't found it to be a whole lot better or worse no matter what brand I use, and they all seem to be reasonably priced. Now, there are some super high-end paints that are made for other applications. I'm not going to get into that now. These are ordinary automotive clears that you can buy in any body shop. 5-star has worked really well. The one that Joe Padula had donated a gallon to our cause. We did his Ducati restoration with that. That worked out perfect. I haven't found a bad one yet, and I don't like to. If I do find a bad one, I'm just not going to say anything. I don't want to badmouth anybody's products. But anyway, as I get this part, and I counted this as a big part because this already had some clear on it, and Steve had done a light sanding on it, and this really came out nice. If you saw this in real life, you can see the reflection of the house in it. You can see the reflection. Look at the reflection in that paint. And Steve had this custom matched. It wasn't a color that Color-Right had in stock. We used real Color-Right thinner, and every step of this, we did not skimp on anything. He did the vinyl work. He did it over when something needed to be done over. We did a lot of little touch-ups on it, and it paid big time. Watch your head. Check this out once you have the clear. You have never seen with a second coat of clear how nice that sparkled up. Look how nice that color came out. Did that come out nice or what? Beautiful. The other parts are hanging in the garage already, so I'm just waiting for you to finish the tank. Guarding this from bugs and small creatures and ravens and stuff. Yeah. Go. That color looks great, by the way.
That's a great color.
Yeah, that's going to dry up beautifully. Why don't you picked a good day to do this? If it was 90 degrees out here, you would have nothing would be sticking. You'd have no adhesion. Now, I could tell after the first part, the paint laid down, that we were going to have a great day with paint. And each part that I painted got confirmed in my mind just how nice of a day this was to get this done. And when I looked at it, and we used to laugh about this looking like a laundromat, things hanging on hooks when the Jot was painting here, and Glenn, of course, but it came out great here. So as we're getting to the end of this, I wanted to emphasize, and I try to do it with every tutorial video I make. I've been painting things since I was in my early teens. I always try to give the appropriate credit to Harold Price. Harold Price took me under his wing at early teens, gave me a spray gun, gave me some thinner, and taught me how to paint model airplanes. Well, that skill has stayed with me for my whole life. I've built on it. I've come up with different ways that I like to do painting, whether it's a model plane, a guitar, a boat engine, or whatever. Now, when it comes to a part just like this size part, yes, you could take one of the $1,000 spray guns, these big automotive guns, and that's just fine. But by doing it this way, it really, to me, the thing you're doing is you're getting the paint on, and it lays down between coats. There's almost no chance you're going to get a run or a drip or something you have to correct later on. And if you do, it'll be minimum. Even if you do, you get carried away. It'll be minimum. Now, it takes a lot more time to do it this way. If you're doing this to try to make money, if you've got people waiting and, well, we'll get this one done and 10 minutes from now we'll bring the next mic in and another, well, that's not going to be to your favor. but since we do this and we're not concerned with the time, I don't want to rush through anything that I can make better by taking a little bit longer, whether it's carbon fiber work or polishing parts, or the wheels on all my motorcycles are total labor of love. And when I do them in the winter, it takes even longer to do it. The paint takes 3 days to dry. But it doesn't matter, because in the end, you have something that's really special. Now, when this bike is assembled and you put it next to one that's got standard paint that's all faded, this is going to be a giant upgrade for a collector bike. And it's a rare bike. In fact, Steve's got the only one in our area that I know of. And to maintain it, to keep the wheels looking like brand new, to keep the aluminum parts polished, and the biggest thing that everybody sees, the paint. If the paint is high gloss and you've got a coat of Colonite wax on this, it just changes everything. Yeah, see, to me, when I'm going to ride the bike, that's the whole reason I like to have a clean bike. So if I run into somebody on the road, or I stop at a gas station, see another biker, we look at each other's bikes, and I'm not looking at something that hasn't been cleaned in 4 years. And I know a lot of people don't believe that, don't care about it, but that's okay. We could still be friends. But I like it for me, and some of my friends feel the same way. Their bikes are immaculate. So it's a personal thing. But this part of putting the clear on, this whole video, if you get one thing out of this whole video, and it is, I emphasize it on all of the videos, paint the 4-to-1 clear in thin coats. And don't put a coat on and then go away for 4 hours. Put it on, 10-15 minutes, put the next coat on. Get it to where you can just touch it with your finger without putting a fingerprint in it. Put the next coat on. And what'll happen when you get to this point, that paint will just lay down beautifully. You run a buffing wheel over that, or if you're a bike show guy, or you're somebody like me that's a fanatic, that paint in a week, you could sand it out with 2000 grit, get some 8065, and I would challenge anybody to come up with nicer paint. That is going to be, and that's a beautiful color. It's very similar to my GS. I love that color. I just saw a Ford pickup truck that color. And I said, wow, you most never see them that color. Anyway, this is going to be one special bike when it's done. All the maintenance is done. You ready for another 15,000 happy miles? How long do tires last on this?
Not long.
Not long. I've been finding out the same thing too.
5,000. I just changed the back tire. The front tires do. I'm going to bring the wheel in.
Wow. 5,000 on a back tire on this bike?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's really, well, you're riding it maybe too aggressively.
No, maybe no, me? No.
You and Pete. No, I would think it's more like 7 or 8.
I gotta check.
Oh wow. I keep track of all this stuff, and I was surprised.
I did the valve lash. What else did I do? Did the brakes.
Did it need pucks?
You need the back. The backs must start out a lot thinner. When I changed the back, took the back wheel off, I said, I got a couple of 100 miles, I got maybe 1,000 miles, but I changed them anyway. Then I said, well, let me change the front. The front had more meat on it.
Yeah, but you got all EBCs? Or did you get Kawasaki one?
I don't remember the brand.
I'm surprised how long modern tires don't last. I'm hoping these Pirelli Angels last. I was only getting 3,000 on the R1.
Well, you see the fronts last more longer than the backs.
No, I change them both. I don't fool around. I don't want to be in the middle of riding and then one tire's worn out and one isn't.
5,000. Wait, yeah, it might be 5,000 because that's the. I took the original tires off. Then I put the Conti Goes. Now I have Conti something else.
I'm hoping. The only one looks like it lasts is the Michelin 5. So far. We'll see.
Well, hopefully they'll last longer than the Conti Goes.
Well, what are the Conti Goes? Are they competitive tires or?
No, same company, but I can't get them. I got these because this was one of the few matching sets I could get.
All right, my friend.
All right, thanks again.
All right, see you later, alligator. Anyway, that paint is laying down today. It's all in the garage, and I'm going to have lunch with my bride. What a beautiful day this turned out to be. The only thing wrong with this whole day is Steve got to ride and I didn't. So I hope there was some useful information on the video you can enjoy and share it. What we do on this channel, we try to share useful information about working on motorcycles, the rides we go on when it's a riding day, the projects we work on, modifying bikes, doing the maintenance, changing tires, making evil twins out of bikes. It's all for the fun of motorcycling. I love every part of it. And hanging out with our friends at the very end and giving each other a hard time, or putting two-stroke oil on some of the four-strokes. Anyway, it's all about the passion for motorcycling. And thanks so much for watching. Hopefully we see you tomorrow.